and today we will be reading sci-fi by Black authors, and there are 3 reasons for this. 1 is just because I love sci-fi. 2, I need to read down some of my physical TBR. And 3, just because I'm rooting for everybody Black. Honestly, that's it. So the 3 books that I will be reading for this video, you've kind of already seen, but the first is Sky Full of Elephants by Cebo Campbell. So I recently bought this book and I just feel like every time someone talks about it, it absolutely sounds like it's up my alley. And this is the first book we'll be reading for this vlog, and I've actually already started it. I'm about 3 or 4 chapters in, and the book right now is really just setting up the premise, which is one day white people wake up and they all decide to drown themselves, and so now we're kind of living in the aftermath of that. One Black man who was in jail previous to this gets a phone call from his daughter who is mixed race, and she's still alive, trying to navigate what's going on. I feel like there's just already a lot happening in the first 4 chapters, and there's just a lot to already think about. So this video is already starting out great, and I haven't even told you what the other 2 books are yet. The second book is Sorrowland by Soloman. This is one that has been on my shelves literally for years. I read another book by Soloman, The Deep, which literally, I don't know if I would say it's one of my favorite books of all time, but it's definitely up there. So that's the only book I've ever read by this author, so I'm intrigued to pick something else up by them because I do think I'll enjoy it. And I'll give you guys a little bit more of a synopsis of this when we start reading it. And then the third book that I'll be reading for this vlog is Death of the Author by Nnedi Okorafor. So I recently read a book by Nnedi Okorafor. I'm just not sure how I feel about this author's writing style, but the premise of this sounds really interesting. This is one that I think a lot of people are anticipating for 2025. So I was lucky enough to get a copy from the publisher. Thank you so much. I'll be reading this in this video as well. So with that, I'm ready to get into it. I've already gotten into it. I'm actually really excited about this vlog. Like, sci-fi really is my jam. And I feel like Black authors always just throw a little bit of social commentary and like real life in there that just really does something for me. So we'll see. High hopes for all of these. Hi guys, so I'm getting ready to go to work and I'm making my morning matcha. So I figured I'd pop in and give you guys an update on Sky Full of Elephants because I'm about 85 pages out from the end, and I have a lot of thoughts. Most of them are good though. So Sydney, our main character, she's mixed, and so when all of the white people end up drowning themselves, she ends up alone in her family's house. And so she ends up calling her father to drive her to a place called Orange Beach, where she believes some of her white family members still exist, like her aunt, her uncle and stuff. And she's really searching for some normalcy, and she's trying to go back to the way things were. But our main character, Sydney, the way that she talks is so triggering. Like, there's been multiple times in the book where I'm just like, she doesn't see herself as Black. So when someone groups her in with Black people, she's like, who's we? Or like, they are these type of people. And it's just like the things that she says, and I understand that it's part of her journey, and you know, this story really is about identity. But while I was expecting this story to be about Sydney's journey for identity, I really wasn't expecting her father's journey for identity to also come into play. And they're both having their own journey, but in both, we're all kind of confronted with some of the realities that we live with today. But the book does cover a lot of Black history, which I really love. There's a paragraph in there about Mississippi, which I do want to read to you guys. If America had ruins, Mississippi would be it. Every step you take got blood in the soil. And I marked that, which I don't be marking stuff, but I marked a couple things in here. I marked that because my family is from Jackson, Mississippi, and there is actually a lot of history there when it comes to the civil rights movement. If you don't know who Medgar Evers is, I would say go look him up because he's actually mentioned in this book. But with my family being from Mississippi, it's just, that just really hit home for me. Blood, tears, all of that is still ingrained to this day into certain parts of Mississippi. And so I feel like calling that out, I just really appreciated. And the writing style of this book, y'all, it is so good. I would say that it's not like super straightforward, and you kind of have to read into things a little bit. I'm gonna read another like small paragraph out of the book so you guys can get a feeling of the writing, but also the paragraph just kind of felt like a love letter to Black boys, and I just absolutely love that. But let me finish whisking my matcha real quick. It says, "Young Black boys," Charlie thought, "the most marvelous things in the universe. As nonchalantly as Harold bit into the fruit, did Black boys ever ponder their influence on the whole world. How effortlessly they rounded the shape of the earth with their swagger and illuminated its days with their creativity. Their hope," Charlie mused, "offered even the bleakest parts of our planet a second sun." Oh, I absolutely love it. I am loving this book. So I will get back to you guys once I finished it. Have you ever had a night where you're just like, wow, this is peak girlhood. This has given me will to live again. That's what I had the other night. So I went to dinner and a concert with my friend, and it just rejuvenated me. We had hand roll sushi. I had a lychee martini. She's also a really big reader, so we just yapped about books for like an hour and a half. And then we went to a concert, which was absolutely phenomenal. It's funny because neither one of us had actually heard of this band prior to like 2 weeks ago. She got an Instagram ad. She listened to it and was like, wait, this is kind of a vibe. She knows my music taste and was like, do you want to go? I listened to 2 songs and was like, yep, let's do it. But it was completely worth it. And they actually had really good concert merch. I hate when a band either doesn't have merch or it's just like very merchy feeling. But this shirt, like how cute is that? Like I can actually wear that out and it doesn't necessarily feel like concert merch, you know? Just loved it. But I did finish Sky Full of Elephants, and I just love when I read a good book. So where I left you guys off at, like almost right after that, we finally got to a point where I did not want to beat up one of our main characters. I can understand a little bit more about where she's coming from, and I could give her a little bit more grace, and she kind of came into her own a little bit, which I was like, whew, thank God. Also, I feel like this book was longer than 288 pages, but I mean that in a good way. I feel like Cebo Campbell was able to give us a very full story, a lot of scenes, a lot of what felt like enough backstory about these characters to understand their motivations, understand their frame of mind, but he did it in such a short amount of pages. It just really felt unique, and I was actually really satisfied by the end of it. And I feel like part of the reason that I was satisfied by the end was because I did have a lot of questions throughout the book, like why did the white people kill themselves? What happened to people who just like have like a drop of Black blood in them, you know? It was all answered for me by the end, which I really appreciated. And this was clearly a sci-fi book, but it also felt like a love letter to Black people and talking about our collective experience. I think it's just such a unique perspective and a unique way to think about the Black experience that I think a lot of people could get something out of this. Y'all, and the writing in here is absolutely beautiful. There was a description of a woman that our main character kind of has a crush on, and she's literally just walking through the door. And the way he describes her silhouette, and it must be like the entrances of heaven, like the way that he says it, I'm not gonna ruin it. I was thinking about reading it to y'all, but I want y'all to experience it for yourselves. But I literally wrote a sticky note and said, "Ho, is you a ghostwriter for Bridgerton?" Because that's how hard it hit. And in the acknowledgments, Cebo mentions that he hoped one day to write a book that Toni Morrison would lean over to someone and be like, hey, I have to tell you about this book that I read. And I feel like he was successful in that, and I feel like it's clear that Toni Morrison was an inspiration to him. So if it's not clear, this book is 5 stars. I really, really enjoyed it. I think if you go into this thinking it's going to be very heavy sci-fi, I would say change your expectations a little bit, but I feel like the full story that it was telling was definitely worth it. But with that, we are on to the next book. Hey friends, so I am about 50 pages into Sorrowland by Solomon, and so far I feel like there's been a lot that's already happened in the first 50 pages, and even in the author's note there's like a trigger warning for just about everything. And so I went into this with a still mind, or I'm trying to, and so I'm just trying to like mentally prepare for what I may read. But already in the first 50 pages we meet a young woman who is about 7 months pregnant when she decides to leave a religious compound, and the father of the babies, I believe, is like a grown preacher at the church, and our main character is pretty young. But she decides to run off from the compound, and she decides to have the babies in the forest, and yet she's still not even safe in the forest right now. She does feel like, you know, she's being hunted by someone. She's not sure who. She's already stumbled along like a bar and met a woman and forgot about her babies. So I'm a little, I wouldn't say lost, but I'm interested to see where this is gonna go, because already all of that within 50 pages, I'm like, baby, I said I was trying to be mentally prepared, but am I actually? So I'm going to, I think, listen to the audiobook of this some more. I do want to try and get a good ways through this tonight. I know me saying finishing it would be ambitious, but I am going to Vegas tomorrow, or we're going to Vegas tomorrow for a work trip. I'll be there for about a week, so who knows how much footage I'll get. But it's about 6:40, 6:30 right now. And so I think I'm just gonna relax. I'm going to decorate my Kindle. I finally got all of the supplies that I needed because I want to make a few inserts, but I'm doing it the like scrapbooking way. So I got like a few sheets from Hobby Lobby, or my mom got them and then she brought them to me. And then I have a bunch of stickers here. I've already done this kind of look, but none of these stickers are like connected to anything. I'm someone that, like, I know some people who don't want to actually stick the stickers because then they're stuck. I'm sorry, that just sounded so stupid, but I'm okay with that because I think these are the only thing I'd be using these stickers for. But what I might do is just like stick them a little, like take off the edge and make sure that they're stuck to the paper. That way, if I do decide that I want to change it up later, I can. But I do just want to have like interchangeable sheets. So I have enough stickers to do like a few themes, and I have some ideas there. So I think I'm gonna just have like a little Kindle insert crafting night while I listen to this and just like watch some YouTube for a little while. Okay, so it has been a long few days, and I will always say that I feel like I'm like the worst vlogger of all time because I actually had some really cool experiences this week, and then at the last moment was like, oh, I was supposed to be taking some video of this. As part of the conference I went to, we actually got early access to the new like F1 experience that's out there. And I personally, I won't say like I'm a big F1 fan, but like I'm a fan. Okay, if you haven't watched that series on Netflix, definitely go watch it because you will be hooked on, I want to say all of the characters, but they're real people. I look so tired. I feel like I look like that DW meme that has like the black shadows under her eyes. And I could put concealer on, but I really don't feel like it because I'm about to lay down in this bed after I finish filming this. But overall, the conference was really good. We got to stay at the Palazzo slash the Venetian, which is like a really nice hotel. Like the whole room was like a suite, which was really nice. I'm currently at the Paris, which I was a little skeptical staying at, but like we booked like the newer side of the hotel, I think, and it's pretty nice. And it was pretty affordable too, so love that. But I did read a bit of Sorrowland on my way to Vegas, and I will say that I forgot that this was supposed to be like a sci-fi vlog because the book isn't giving sci-fi at all. Because so far I'm over halfway through it, and right now it really just kind of feels like a general fiction story where this girl is trying to raise her sons in the woods, and she decides that like obviously like they can't stay in the woods all the time, and so she starts to try to make her way towards her friend Lucy, which was like a really close friend that she had on the compound, but Lucy moved off of the compound. Our main character is trying to like bring her boys there, but she's starting to have some realizations that she doesn't know if she's ever really going to make it to Lucy, but she just like has to keep moving, right? Because she knows that the people from the compound are probably looking for her. And I won't even say probably, they are looking for her because it was kind of confirmed by one of the characters that we interacted with that they're keeping an eye on her. They're keeping an eye on her. And there really isn't like too much to say past that because it's just all these descriptions of essentially them surviving in the woods. We learn a little bit more about the twins as they're growing up. I will say that like I don't know if I trust one of the twins, which is a crazy thing to say about a 4-year-old, but just the way that he's kind of being portrayed, I feel like as he gets older, if we get to see that there's going to be something going on with one of the twins, but we'll see. I'm kind of disappointed that it's not exactly what I thought it was going to be. I'm not sure where the sci-fi element is really coming from. I'm wondering if like the book is genred the way that it should be. I'll try to do better about vlogging some of the other stuff that I'm going to do while I'm here in Vegas. It should be a little different now that I'm on like the leisurely half of the trip because the first couple of days was strictly for work. But yeah, I will do my best to keep you guys updated. Do you ever just have moments where you realize that you're aging? Like it's not a bad thing at all, but it just kind of hits you. That's how I felt this week because it's literally been a full week since I've given you guys an update and since I've been back from Vegas. And the thing is, I didn't go crazy or anything like that, but it's like I just needed multiple days to recover from like not being in my own space. But I did finish Sorrowland, and I feel like I owe this book an apology because I was accusing it of not being sci-fi or not being sci-fi enough. And I do feel like the last like 25 to 50% of the book, the sci-fi really did turn on. So our main character, Vern, throughout the story, she has these hauntings where people are visiting her and like interacting with her. And she's also has this like illness that she calls her passenger that we're not really sure what that is until towards the end of the book. And like I said, when the sci-fi starts to pick up a little bit. But I really do hate that we didn't learn more about that element of the book until the end. Also, something that we kind of learned towards the end was we learned more about the history of the compound that our main character Vern grew up on, what was the purpose of that compound, and how it just kind of fits into the story a little bit more. There are some parallels to things that have actually happened in history that like specifically impact the Black community, and I really liked those parallels. But again, I really wish that we had gotten that more in the beginning of the book. Like, the book did feel like a cohesive story, but the beginning was just so slow for me, like to the point that I maybe would have DNF'd it if it wasn't for this video. And while I'm glad that I finished reading it, because I feel like when I last updated you guys, it was probably like a 2.75 if it would have continued the way that it was going, but by the end of it, I think it is like a solid 3.5. This book is queer. It explores gender identity. We do get to learn more about her friend Lucy and how she ties into the story more. I was satisfied with that story arc, but I do feel like we could have gotten a little bit more there as well. And you know, I mentioned that I was scared about all the trigger warnings at the beginning, but there really wasn't anything in this book that felt like too hard to read. Obviously, there's like certain subject matters that are never going to be easy, but there wasn't a lot of like on-page type of things that felt like really hard to read and traumatic for me. I still take the author's note at the beginning into account if you're considering reading this book. But like I said, overall, 3.5 stars. I apologize for judging you. Still a solid read, but it still just like wasn't exactly what I wanted. But I'm glad that I finally got it off of my TBR and that I read it. I have also gotten about 50 pages into Death of the Author. This is another one that after reading some reviews, I'm a little apprehensive about the genre of this, which sucks because this whole video is supposed to be sci-fi, but you know, there are different ways to explore sci-fi, and so I'm trying to open up my mind to that a bit. But in this story, we follow a young woman who, she does have a disability. She is in a wheelchair, and that is obviously affecting how she interacts with people. Some discrimination that she feels is always kind of directed towards her. But she is at her sister's wedding, and they are in Nigeria, I believe, and she meets a guy, but she also gets fired while she's at the wedding from her job. And like 10 minutes after she gets fired, she gets like a rejection letter for her novel, which is like the 10th or 15th one that she's gotten. And so she's kind of just really in a slump. And so she decides like, why not just like go all in on a new novel? And that is the novel that's kind of interwoven into this story. And so pretty quickly we do get excerpts from the novel that she's writing, which I do think is like really fascinating. And I feel like that's where the sci-fi element is probably going to come in. I'm interested to see if like any other sci-fi element is woven into like our main character's story at all, but you know, we'll see. I need to stop judging books by the first like 50, 60, 70 pages, because you know, then I look stupid when they prove me wrong. And so I'm hoping that this book proves me wrong. I am getting through it pretty quickly. I am enjoying reading this like physically and with the audiobook, so I'm definitely going to continue that in the next like day or so. I don't hope for the best, y'all. Alright, so I am a good amount of the way through the book, probably about 75%, and I think I can safely say that while I'm actually really enjoying this book, I don't know if I'd classify it as sci-fi, because the only sci-fi elements, as I kind of thought at the beginning, are the elements that are interwoven through the book that she's writing. Throughout the story, we are following how our main character Zulu, how her life has been impacted since she's written this book. It's become like an immediate bestseller. It's been adapted into a movie, and we kind of just learn how like her family dynamics are, how it kind of changes when she has the fame and she has the ability to possibly change her disability in a way. I think the insight into like the African family dynamic is really interesting, and I'm glad that we're getting that POV. And while I like the insight of her family dynamics, they're frustrating for sure. Like some of her siblings, I just want to like strangle a little bit. I will also say, because I'm listening to the audiobook, there is something about like an African accent that just like scratches my brain, and I absolutely love it. We learn about like her romantic relationship too, which I actually really enjoy because it's not like a straightforward romance. It's more of like a life partner situation, and I like how it's being depicted here. And I'm pleased to say that the writing style, I am really just kind of like flying through this book, and I was really nervous about that because the last book I read by Nnedi Okorafor, the writing style felt so jilted to me, and I just really could not get past it. And I really like didn't enjoy the last book I read by her. But this book, pleased to say that complete opposite, and I'm really enjoying it, even though it isn't like as sci-fi heavy. And I will say I wasn't sure how I was gonna feel about like a story within a story, but I'm actually really enjoying that aspect because you get to see how like Zulu's life is interwoven into her story. But overall, there are like a lot of themes in this book, and I can't quite put it all together right now. My thoughts are kind of all over the place, but overall, I just want to say that I am really enjoying this book. I do have about an hour and a half left of the audiobook, which I think I'll finish up tonight. But right now I am getting ready because my friend is having a birthday dinner. It is one of the rare times in Texas where like it's warm outside, but it doesn't feel like hell. So happy about that. I'll come back once I have the final update and we can kind of wrap this up. My voice is so shaky right now. Can you guys tell I'm hungover? Can you or can you not? Because I can definitely hear it in my voice. But you know, I'm young and spry. Not as spry as I used to be, but that's okay. But I finished Death of an Author this morning. I was pleasantly surprised, but I also feel a little vindicated because I don't know if I would really consider this true sci-fi, because the only sci-fi we really got was the sci-fi book that was interwoven throughout the story, which was fine actually, because I actually preferred the perspective of our main character and like her real life story that she had going on. And while I mentioned previously that I would enjoy reading the sci-fi book that was in this story, I started to get to a point where I was like, I actually don't care anymore. I started to glaze over the little snippets from the sci-fi book that was in the story, and I found myself caring more about Zelu, our main character, and her story, and you know, her real life and all of that. And so it's really made me kind of think about how I perceive sci-fi, and I know that there's different ways the sci-fi can be interwoven into books, but I am now craving like an alien time travel type of like deep sci-fi book, because I feel like between this book and between Sorrowland, like it was missing a little something for me, and I feel like they were more like literary sci-fi, which there is no problem with that, but I wanted something a little crazier, that's all. But with that being said, I still actually really enjoyed this story. I enjoyed us getting the perspective of a Nigerian family and learning the dynamics of how their family works. And even though it was a little frustrating at times, I feel like getting that insight isn't something that I've had before, that I've really read in a book before, and so I'm glad that I got that. I also really like the commentary that we got around the publishing industry, reviewers, online discourse about authors, all of that. It kind of felt like Yellowface a little bit to me with some of like the subject matter and some of the things they were talking about with like cancel culture and stuff. It wasn't done as satirically as it was done in Yellowface, but we still just got a little bit of a mention and commentary on that, which I really enjoyed. And so overall, I'm giving this 4 stars. It wasn't what I expected, but I was pleasantly surprised, and I actually did really enjoy my time reading the book. And I will say that, you know, me and Miss Okorafor, we had a rocky beginning from when I read her book in this blind date with a book video. But I feel like after reading this, I would definitely read from her again, and so I'm glad that we are on better footing now. But overall, I feel like this was a pretty successful vlog. I found a 5-star in a book that will probably be on my top 10 books of 2025. And then Sorrowland, 3.5. Not a bad rating by any means. Slow going at the beginning, but you know, we have an understanding now. Like I even feel like we're having a little moment here with the colors. So, but I do really enjoy River Solomon's writing, so I would definitely continue to read from this author. Overall, they did it again. Okay, not disappointed, not disappointed. And if you made it to the end of this video, leave a elephant emoji or like a sky emoji for sky full of elephants, and let me know down below in the comments what is the last 5-star book that you read. And as always, you are my absolute favorite, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.